have a rather ambitious schedule, and we'd like to get started. Tony, you have a few remarks?
I do. Just a couple remarks before we start. The first is, this is our first year with our online budget entry, and all the department heads were very cooperative with that. Hopefully they found it easier to use and more user-friendly. I know that, that we did in finance, so we thank all of our departments for that. You will notice there are no cost of living adjustments in any of the department budgets because the town, the two contracts with our unions expire June 30th of this year. So we're beginning negotiations shortly. So you will not have any cost of living adjustments in any department budgets. Those are sort of the big items I wanted to just discuss as we, and the last is the sheet I handed out today, which has updated grand list information, which Marcia just completed, and she can get into that when she presents her budget. And the mill rate increase with the requested budgets would be 10.17% increase.
Which is not going to happen, by the way.
So that's just gives you a starting point for where we are. Okay,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. As we begin our, let me just make an announcement. This is a joint Town of Woodbridge Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance budget hearing with the purpose of the various departments to present their budgets. Today is Tuesday, January 24th, 2023. And to lead us off is the tax collector, Pat Crisco. Pat, just, I'm looking at your budget, it's almost identical. Is there anything you want to mention? Any kind of highlights or whatever?
No, the biggest is postage.
Okay.
They're just, and there's an expectation that it's going to increase in mid-year.
Mhm.
So we have to be very careful about that.
Okay, everything else looks the same?
Pretty much. Our printing cost went up a little bit. I think there's a slight increase in that.
And collection rate is still excellent, I'm sure?
It is.
Okay.
Yep. We're still in the top 10 in the state. And above us are 5 towns who either sell their liens or sell all their taxes to a private company.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Pat? No? Okay.
Okie doke.
I'd say go home and cook for Joe, but Joe's right over here, so.
No, I already fed him. Thank you.
Okay, next up is our tax assessor. Let's see, where is that tax? That's the next one. 1160.
Hello.
For those of us who don't know you, because Pat's been here for, would you mind introducing yourself?
Okay, so I'm Marcia Benno. I'm the assessor. I've been here since December of 2020. So I've been in 4 other municipalities: Stratford, Milford, or 3, sorry, Ansonia, and then here. I started as a clerk, became deputy assessor, and then assessor.
You started in the middle of COVID here.
I started, right,
So
Yeah.
this is why nobody knows you really.
yeah,
We're all isolated.
Yeah, right.
yep,
It's hard. One of these days.
right.
One of these days we're gonna see each other again.
And your budget actually shows a decrease, so you can leave.
Okay.
We don't want you to say anything that might hurt that. But go ahead, no, any highlights?
No, I just want, on a couple of things, because we did this new online, there was different line items, so I kind of moved it to make it more specific. So some may have gone down, some might have went from 0 and up, because I had moved it around a little bit, just to be more specific on the line items. But pretty much that's about it for that. We don't ask for very much
Yeah.
than what we need. We do need the pricing books for the motor vehicle, the online for the DMV civils. Definitely need to have education with legislation changes and how we process our grand list and all of that.
Why don't you just explain what that revaluation supplement is, the 10,000?
That is a supplement. Instead of having the reval company do all of the inspections every 4 years, what it does is it's actually a lesser amount that to have me go out and do the inspections over the 4 years. So the only thing that the reval company will do is help with the commercial aspect of it. So that cuts the cost of the reval over the 5-year period. Because revals could be anywhere between $150,000, $300,000 every 5 years.
Are there any questions for our tax assessor?
Can I ask a quick question about the geo mapping service?
Uh-huh.
Is that like it says 1 times 3,500, is that 1 year of a multi-year contract?
That is an annual fee for them to update our maps online. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever we have surveys come in, if we have splits of properties, they update our online system.
Okay, so
To
that's
reflect
nothing
that.
special, that's gonna be a yearly, that's
Right.
the yearly, okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Good luck.
And then,
Oh, you're
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
are
I'm
you doing
also,
assessment appeals?
right.
Okay, that's the next tab. That's a biggie. Anything particular you want to mention about that? It's pretty straightforward. It's only $2,400.
Right. I mean, it all goes based upon the hours that the Board of Assessment Appeals works, or they submit for, so I think it's $25 an hour per member. There's 3 members, and then there's also secretary, or the person that takes the minutes, posts them. So that's twice a year that they meet. It could be 5 to 6 days. Usually 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 9 to 12, I think, so.
Okay, any questions on that?
Actually, question, it looks like you're anticipating more meetings than you have been. Is there any particular reason or just?
Well, I'm not anticipating more meetings. It's more of how many hours that the board is submitting and how they're submitting their hours. So that's something I think that needs to be addressed separately, maybe,
Yeah.
about how they submit their hours.
Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Did you?
Yeah, you could just give.
Yeah, I just want to do a little
Yeah.
bit on the grand list.
Yeah,
if you
go
don't
ahead.
mind.
Great.
Sure.
yeah.
Okay, so, our grand list went up about 1% from last year. And over the past 3 years, the grand list has increased about 3%. So the grand list is made up of business, personal property, motor vehicles, and real estate. And from last year to this year, we actually lost 133 personal property accounts. But then we added on another 114, so we really only lost about 19 personal property accounts, which would be business personal property or unregistered motor vehicles. Real estate, I did about 176 changes. That doesn't mean inspections, it's actually changes that were made since last year. There was 132 properties that were increased, a net assessment of roughly $8,200,000. And there was 44 properties that were decreased, about $580,000, which is a net increase of about $7,600,000. And these are due to new construction, or they're under construction, then completed, remodeled. The decreases could be based on court cases, BAA, if there's splits in the property, or foreclosures where their properties are reviewed and brought down. that one we had, motor vehicle, we had about 62 deletes and about 200 adds. So there's a net increase of 138 vehicles from last year. Our real estate went up about 0.5%, personal property about 0.6%. Motor vehicles went up about 5.7%, and that's because the values are increasing. And I think that's about it. as
Yeah,
far as-
the interesting part about the motor vehicle increase is, the mill rate is controlled by the state. So even if your grand list goes up,
Right.
your mill rate doesn't really change.
Yeah, last year was our first year with the mill rate cap, so that makes a big difference when you're figuring out your mill rate for real estate and
Right.
personal property.
Right, right.
And then also, just to, on here, there was also a, income and expense forms are now going out annually, and that goes to businesses to report their income, because commercial is based on your income. The valuation of properties is based on the income that they make. So, 10% penalty for those people who don't file their income and expense statements, and that was an assessment of about 880,000 this year of penalties. So,
Okay. Anything?
A question, so you mentioned the increases and decreases and it nets out the valuation. Do the decreases also include like a property that's demolished? Does that just counts as a decrease because it went from some value to zero, or?
well, it depends on when it's demolished. On October 1st, if it's there, and if it's demolished the next day, but it wasn't due to a fire or natural disaster, that assessment stays for a whole year. They don't get a reduction.
And then the next
It would be the
October
next
1
October 1. If it's not there, then it would be just land, right?
Right, so that's just part of your decrease number.
Right, that, it could be, yeah, if we had one of those, but, yeah, that mostly is, I think we had about 200,000 of that 500,000 was a court case on one property, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Next up is Human Services.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all.
In case you don't recognize, because I never do.
Yes.
Of course, that's
I'm
Jeanette.
Waxman, and this is
and
Susan
Susan.
Davidson, the chairman of the Human Services Commission.
Okay, I was going to. Thank you, Jeanette. I don't have to introduce myself. Okay. I have a few remarks that I'd like to make on behalf of the Commission. The Human Services Department accomplishes much for Woodbridge residents with a small, dedicated, creative staff and one of the smallest portions of the town's budget when you look at the overall budget pie chart familiar to all. Historically, the department has always made an enormous contribution to our town. Now, in these very challenging times with the pandemic, food insecurity, high energy costs, the growth of the town's 55 and over population, currently representing 37% of our total population, thus creating an accompanying need for transportation to allow residents to remain in their homes while aging in place. Human Services provides an irreplaceable lifeline by vaccinating, transporting, feeding, educating, entertaining, socializing, and supplying warmth with fuel assistance and energy shelter when needed, emergency shelter when needed. In reality, crucial services are needed now more than ever. I'll mention a few stats since numbers speak. In FY 21-22, almost 4,000 senior meals were provided, and the transportation program gave 1,929 rides to seniors for medical appointments, etc. We all recognize that transportation is an essential component of senior services in Woodbridge, given the absence of public transportation in town. It is important to note that the age and mileage on the vehicles we use to transport seniors is a constant problem and an almost daily challenge at a time when the need for transportation services has expanded. The hand-me-down vehicle we recently received has 180,000 plus miles on it. Youth Services continues to make a significant difference in the lives of youth and parents in Woodbridge, providing tried and true established programs while also creating new ones to assist teens and their families in coping with stress and contemporary challenges. This year, close to 2,500 youth will attend programs planned, coordinated, and staffed by Youth Services. YS also provides opportunities for students to give back to our community by participating in community service. In closing, both the operating budget presented tonight and our capital budget presented on December 6, 2022, were unanimously approved by the Commission. As always, we ask for what is essential to operate once we finally move into our newly renovated senior center, and to provide crucial funding for expanded programs offered to a large segment of our town residents. Thank you.
I don't believe you'll have any questions. It's a pretty straightforward
Yeah.
request. I just want to point out that it's about a difference of $6,000 from last year to this year, and half of that is outside agencies and other costs that are out of our control. So I just, hope that you can fund what we're doing. It is important to the town, as Susan said, and if there are questions, I'd entertain them. I
When do
knew
you
it was
anticipate,
straightforward.
when do you anticipate the senior facilities to be ready to go?
Well, that's a good question, Matt.
I always ask good questions.
I know you do. We have a meeting tomorrow morning with the contractors and the A&E firm. We're really making progress in the last week or so. Took a huge delivery of the HVAC supplies yesterday afternoon, I think. So that's tremendous. We had some holdups on the HVAC systems, and we've had some change orders going along. But ultimately, it's a bad time to be doing construction. There are a lot of delays. There are a lot of companies that went out of business. Almost every one of the finishes that we selected are no longer available. And so we've had to make other choices. Those choices can be either plus money or minus money, so everything changes. In answer, I would hope in 3 to 4 months we'd be close.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yeah, by the end of this fiscal year, I would say we'd be in. But, it's a
That's
guess, but thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thanks a lot. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you. If a thought popped into your head when Tony said that there's no cost of living in any of these figures, as you can see, the salaries, there is a big jump, if you look, in the Board of Finance contingency. So we have no idea what these contracts are going to settle for, but we put, so we don't have to add this in above and beyond this. There is a lot of money in contingency to hopefully cover it, we'll see. Okay, next is the Police Department.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Frank. Chief, excuse me.
Good to go?
Yeah.
All right. As always, the majority of our operating budget reflects on contractual obligations, with the remainder going towards daily operating expenses. I'll highlight some of the increases that we have on the contractual side. In the first line, in line 50220, the police officer salary line, we propose an increase for the funding of one additional patrol officer. And as you know, over the course of the past few years, the police department's funding for manpower has been reduced and has resulted in the elimination of 3 full-time positions since 2018. Because of that, we continue to operate with the staffing levels that are well below those recommended in a past staffing study, as we do our best to cover the town's 19.2 square miles and ensure public safety. In that past staffing study, which was conducted by the South Central Criminal Justice Administration, it was recommended that the police department staffing be at a level of 26 officers for it to be of optimum efficiency for the needs of our community. That number of 26 officers was attained years ago and was held constant for many years until the recent past, when we began reducing our manpower. And today we're functioning with a total of 23 sworn. Although, we're a small town and a small community, it's very challenging being situated between 2 major cities and adjacent to other nearby communities that are all experiencing numerous violent crimes. As that crime doesn't stop, we all know it doesn't stop at the town lines, and it continues to impact our community as well. From 2019 to 2022, our call volume has increased by approximately 15%. And this year, in 2022, almost a third of all our shifts were covered by only having 2 police officers on patrol at one time. Many of our calls for service required 2-officer response, during which time other calls could be virtually left, ultimately be left pending until an officer becomes available to respond. And that creates a concern for public safety and for officer safety as well. The deputy chief has some additional information regarding this that we'd like to share.
Good evening. In the calendar year 2022, the Woodbridge Police Department generated 31,833 case numbers. During 2022, Woodbridge officers responded to numerous calls for service, including proactive calls that require a minimum of 2 police officers. Throughout the year, officers were involved in 3,418 incidents, or 10.73% of the call volume, which require a minimum of 2 police officers. Most certainly, there were other incidents which required a minimum of 2 officers. So I subsequently reviewed the Woodbridge Police Department daily detail activity paperwork dating from January 1st through December 31st. And I wanted to ascertain the number of shifts that were patrolled by only 2 police officers. So what my research revealed was that we work 365 days a year. There are 3 shifts, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., and 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. There are a total of 1,095 shifts per year. In 2022 calendar year, there were only 2 police officers on patrol on 352 shifts, which is equivalent to 32.15% of the time. To conclude, there have been numerous times throughout the year where there has been insufficient coverage and staffing. When there are only 2 officers responding to a call for service that require a minimum of 2 officers, the town is left unprotected. We have been forced to utilize neighboring police departments for much needed assistance. These circumstances present a major safety concern to not only our residents, but for those that protect and serve the town. The addition of 1 police officer would greatly enhance our ability to provide more efficient police service and improve the quality of life for our residents.
Just to follow up on that, with the potential of serious incidents becoming more and more prevalent, as we see on the news just about every day now, we need to ensure consistent and adequate staffing levels that have the manpower readily available, so that we can promptly respond to any threats that we're presented with. Like the deputy said, we all rely on mutual aid from surrounding communities, and we call on our staff from home, as need be. And that's all the process that, it always occurs and will occur. But we need to remain mindful that the delays associated with waiting for somebody to get here from out of town or somebody coming from home could really be problematic. We just have to bear that in mind. And additionally, because of our reduced staffing, we've been forced to discontinue our participation in any type of a regional task force. We have no personnel to spare, so for the last several years, we stopped participating in any kind of regional collaborative policing efforts. Those are invaluable because they provide us with direct intelligence networking, immediately, investigative experience, and more importantly, they provide us with immediate access to additional police personnel whenever needed. Being able to, get staff back to the level where we could rejoin one of the regional task forces would allow us to enhance our drug enforcement and interdiction efforts. And an important part of that is also, that comes along with that, is it provides the opportunity to rebuild our asset forfeiture fund, which we customarily use in the past to offset training. So I hope that, the information that both of us conveyed to you stresses our feelings of how important it is to start building the police department back, the staffing of the police department, start going back up to where we were, so that's why we're asking for one officer as a start. Just a couple of the other lines on the contractual side, of the part-time maintenance line. The proposed request there was to fund a slight increase in hours for our part-time mechanic from the 12 hours per week that he's currently budgeted for. We want to raise it up to 15 hours. With less cars being replaced over the years, coupled with supply chain demand delays affecting the vehicle deliveries, and our vehicle mileage is continuing to rise, we've been experiencing multiple repairs, some of which have been significant. So currently our mechanic, although budgeted for 12 hours a week, has been averaging about 14 plus or minus hours per week, depending on what transpires throughout the week. So we asked for a slight increase there. The overtime, our overtime police line, we've asked for a significant increase there, as I think as we almost always do. But although we do our best part to control and minimize overtime, we all realize it's a necessary, I guess, evil you could call it, but it's needed to ensure public safety operations 24/7. It really correlates directly with the timing and frequency of incidents, late calls, crimes, weather events, all things that are unpredictable as to when they may occur. And then the diminishing staff that we have, the diminished staff that we have, increases the frequency and the need for overtime to maintain adequate manpower levels and to honor contractual obligations. With the staff that we have and the reduced staff, we continue providing the same necessary services that we always did. We maintain 2 school resource officers, and we make it all work the best that we can, but with 3 less, and that's, it just affects our overtime costs. The deputy and I monitor it closely, and there really is no unnecessary or frivolous spending of overtime, only which is necessary to ensure the proper delivery of services and to ensure safety and staffing levels. On our overtime training budget, we asked for $2,000 more, and that's just a slight increase to cover training costs for both our sworn and our civilian dispatchers. We've been working with the dispatch consultant, and we continue to increase our telecommunicator training for the dispatchers. And for our officers, we have, a lot of new things that came about during police accountability, and so we're mandated to continue training in those. On the operational side, on the uniform allowance line, it was 51800. We asked that increase reflects the additional officer and also bulletproof vest replacement. Every year it fluctuates, so that's up. Just the way the cycle works, that's just up a little bit from last year. And on line 52210, the data processing line, you see an increase there. That funding request for this line is associated with some increase in our various annual service contracts and our block of service and IT support, the block of hours that we get through VanCord, along with several new and necessary IT-related software services, such as cloud-based email security, dark web monitoring, an internet backup system, and a cloud-based storage backup system. The funding in this line requests needs all associated with both the town and the police department's recent IT infrastructure upgrade, as we collectively work together under the guidance of VanCord to establish uniformity throughout the town, and our goal to minimize our risk and our vulnerability of being compromised in a cyber attack. In our repair maintenance vehicle lines, we've seen an extra $5,500, and just due to cover the cost of parts and repair parts, all that are going up in price over the last couple of years, and also that our mileage are using more and more parts for that. Now, professional development training line, that's on line 54630. We're looking to institute a new online training service. It's called Police One Academy Training. It's a service used by numerous surrounding agencies, and it allows officers to take online training courses, many of which are needed towards our Connecticut Police Officer recertifications, and other additional classes as well to enhance their skill sets. This past year, we've been trying it on a limited basis, and it allowed us at a minimal cost to provide our personnel with active shooter training to enhance the response to high-risk events. Having the capability to do this online would strengthen our training efficiency, would provide more opportunities for training. It wouldn't entail that we'd have to have officers travel and time and costs associated with that. Of sending people out of town and having them to do that on their days off. When they do it online, we could have them do it right here as they're working. This increase also reflects we have a vacancy of an officer that we're going to need to fill due to a retirement coming up, and then that reflects the Connecticut Police Officers Training Academy is a $3,400 tuition fee for there. And also we've joined this year we joined the Shoreline Technical Crimes Investigative Group. It's a regional group that allows a regional approach for smaller agencies for readily accessible technological and forensic analysis of things associated with all the crimes that we're doing now, and internet fraud and so on and so forth. So those are the costs all reflected in our computer line, which is 55111. We kept that pretty much constant and in alignment with what we had last year, and that all goes along with our IT infrastructure upgrade project and our circular replacement of aging computer workstations. And moving forward, it includes the replacement of 12 e-ticket printers in our patrol vehicles for the new standards, and some Adobe Acrobat licensing in conjunction with the new Office 365 software that we've installed, and a video conferencing kit to go with the capital budget, request for a new projector for the training room in the EOC. See the tires, gas, and oil line, 55145, that was a significant increase, but that's all a result of the price of gas that just went up, and again, an increase with oil and tires. And under our capital machinery, at the end there, 57410, we're looking to replace one taser that's reaching the end of its serviceable life, and it'll be out of warranty, and when that happens, they won't repair it, we'll send it out for repair, and they won't even send it back to the liability, so it needs to be replaced. It's a circular thing that we try to do every year. And under capital furniture and fixtures, we have a request for an adjustable workstation in the sergeant's office, and also some funding in there to replenish and add to our traffic barricade signs, sign stands and so forth. So on the operational side, we did our best to limit the increases in those lines. Some have gone up, and you'll see some of those other lines are some kind of minimal increases. A lot of those that haven't been done over the past several years, and to meet the budget line, we kind of just kept buying less and less and less and keeping price constant. Prices have gone up and they continue to rise, and even those slight proposed increases would realistically reflect the cost of us doing business and our ability to catch up for lines that in different things that we might have fallen behind on. And that's about it.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Chief, if you had the one additional officer that you talked about, would that have an impact on joining the regional task forces, and would it have an impact on the overtime numbers? So if you had the one additional officer, would it enable you to participate in the regional task forces you talked about? And would it have any appreciable impact on the overtime numbers?
I think it would definitely help towards the overtime, because there would be less times when you have enough people working, so that would definitely impact the overtime somewhat. It won't solve all the overtime problems, but it would be a turn in that direction. It will lead towards that. And as far as putting into a regional task force, one officer right now really would not enable us to do that, but one now and maybe one or two in the years to come down the road will lead us in that direction. Right now, I think just even with one officer won't enable us to do that, at least not on a full-time basis. But it would be a start in the right direction towards that.
Anybody else?
I see we have seven dispatchers. That's to comply with some sort of AFSCME? What is that? So
Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you a little bit back.
we have 7 dispatchers,
Yes.
right? Is that to comply with some? What is AFSCME? What is that? Is that a compliance group or something?
Oh, FC. That's the union contract.
That's a union? That's a union? Okay.
Anything else?
I have a question about dispatchers. There's a push by the state to regionalize services. I'd like to know where Woodbridge is going with that.
I don't think that, that's been a push that's been talked about for quite some time. Down the road in years from now that might happen. I don't see it happening in the near future. I think they tried to do that once in the past in some places and they reverted back. Not around here, but I think in another part of the state. But I know that has been talked about and it's always in the works, and someday we might come to that, but
But the
I don't
state,
see anything in the imminent future.
yeah, but the state is authorizing funds to push communities to do that. They're very interested in doing that. And it would also cut down on our cost for dispatchers, and it would also possibly bring in some income if the dispatch unit was on a Woodbridge property. So it would be kind of a win-win for the town and for the surrounding towns.
If we were able someday to have a regional dispatch center here, that would be wonderful.
What's,
I don't really suggest going outsourcing or taking it way out of our community. I think that's something we've been discussing for the past few years now, and with the consultant and all, I think that the consensus was that that'd be best left here.
do you know what the holdup to that is?
To
Why that isn't
regionalization?
progressing? I'm sorry?
To hold up to,
To regionalizing dispatch.
no, I have no idea. That's on the state level, well above me. I don't know what the state's doing about that.
And this 150,000 in overtime, does that include all overtime or just police overtime for, for when they're on duty for the town? Or does it also include when they're doing special or private duty for UI or, any of the other projects?
No, all the UI and utility jobs, that's paid by the contractor.
So that's not in that number?
That's separate.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
That overtime is just police and dispatchers, yeah.
Anyone else? No? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next up is recreation. Recreation. Please note that the operating budget was prepared as if the pool was in use. Until there is a decision on how we are proceeding with repairs and our numbers will reflect our usual usage of business, which includes operating the pool. Programs and publicity. Make clear that you understand that transportation costs are out of our control. The dumpster, things like that, we have no control over the price that's given. Needless to say, after that, presenting the budget, a few facts before we get started, is that the cost for recreation over the past 3 years, 2022, 23, and going into 24, is about $47,000. That's an average of about $15,000 a year the recreation department is asking the town of Woodbridge for. Our income started at $250,000 in 21-22. Again, anticipated in 2022-23 was $251,000, and in 2023-24 was $271,000 projected. But you have to take away, if the pool doesn't open, you have to minus that about $15,000. Because that's the cost of what we would take in, anticipated money taken in for swim lessons and using the pool and the operation of the pool. Other than that, we're asking for around $24,700, about $25,000. Of that, about $15,000 is minimum wage. Minimum wage goes up to $15 per hour. We pay minimum wage, and 95% of our staff are Woodbridge students that work for us in our program. And then adults that work within the program brings it up to about 98% of the people that we pay are Woodbridge residents for here. So in other words, we're asking for about $10,000 or $12,000 overall over budget. That would be for maintenance, the cost of buses. Cost of buses are going up. We have no control over that. And basically, that's our whole program that we're offering. On a side note, we're having the most successful fall season, winter season that we've ever had. Our gymnastics on a Saturday morning at Beach Road School is over 37. The parents packed the bleachers. We had to open up every bleacher so the parents can come in and sit for that program. Our Tuesday night league tonight, our classic basketball league, is packed.
to the brim, and we have to open up all the bleachers for all the parents that come from the town of Woodbridge that enjoy coming to the program. Thursday night, we had 3 teams in our junior high league, and it's tough to go with 3 teams, so we got together with the JCC, and we combined with the JCC, and they had a team that they couldn't get in anywhere. So now they've joined our program. No cost to the JCC to join our program. They take care of their kids and come into our program like this. That's because they are helping us so much and Orange so much in letting our residents swim in their pool, as our pool is non-functional at this point. So it's reciprocation, which I think is very important for these people. They do a great job for us. And now we have a 4-team league, and the kids love it. So it's running good. And that's basically our budget.
Any questions for John?
You said something about programs and publicity, which is the big increase. Did you say you have no control over that? I didn't hear what you said.
It's not busing.
The busing.
is in that
Busing
line.
is comes.
Oh,
We have
busing.
control,
Yeah, we
fees,
have-
that's from the bus company.
Okay.
And once the gas goes up, the capacity.
And also on another side note, we are really pushing our publicity for the Health and Wellness Center. Woodbridge now has a Health and Wellness Center. The fitness center is gone. It's now the Health and Wellness Center. And we have almost 28 people signed up right now in that program. At the beginning of the year, Tony and I talked like this, and he said that program only had like 3 or 4. And now we're up to 28, and we're doing more, and we're putting more advertising. Teresa is now the pool director, but she's also our public relations person on keeping rec on the front line, on the front fire, and also working for help us with the fitness center. So we got a lot going, and we're working hard.
Question about the banking line item. Is that the fee for using a credit card to pay for programs?
Yes.
And is that paid by the people who are purchasing the program, or do you cover that fee?
We cover that. Each year, though, we go up where our price our fees to accept the credit card purchase. So, right, we don't individually pass it along to the customer, but we do go up in our cost of the program.
Cost of the
each
program.
year to,
Right.
take down the cost.
So we see your expenses here, and we don't see where they're offset with in specific areas where they're offset with revenue, but you're saying you are charging to cover
Yes.
that fee? You're just raising the
Right,
price in
very
general?
low fees. Like, last year we may have charged $100 for a program, and next year we'll charge $105.
Right.
for example.
So the people who are not using credit cards are sort of subsidizing the people who are using credit cards? Is that kind of how it falls out, or?
Well, we do raise the fee, right, we raise the fee each year, so everybody,
Deborah?
like I said, that they get a rate that way, then, sure, but we do raise the fees each year.
Yeah, so the reason we're seeing them go up a lot is more and more people must be using credit cards rather than
Oh, yes,
Yes, I
yeah.
think people have that, like 8% or whatever now are
Yeah.
trying to charge, yes.
It's tough behind the rec department. We're hidden downstairs in the dungeon of rec, but it's beautiful, the dungeon of the town.
We used to get stacks of checks this high, and we'd take all day to
Go through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Now
probably
people are
worth it.
coming in and
Yeah.
doing it. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
Can I just ask, what's the difference between the fitness center and health and wellness? Are you offering other programs? What do you?
Yes, that's what we're going to do. We're going to be offering programs like Rob Nibbins and things like that would come in, health programs, health things that would come in, things that we could try to advance the program to do this like this. You gotta remember, it's a senior center. It's a gathering. It's a gathering of a senior center. It's one of the nicest things. We have the concerts. The concerts are a town gathering where everybody comes together in one big gigantic thing, 4 or 5 Tuesdays a year. And the fitness center is the same thing. Fitness center is a vital part of the town of recreation. It goes way back 30 years. What we do is we're trying now to enhance ourselves, to make ourselves better, to make ourselves compete with the programs that are out there, and finding ways to draw people in, even if it's more seniors, to draw them into the program like this. That's what we're trying to do. So we're asking if anybody has any ideas or anything, we're more than welcome to accept it. That's what we're trying. Oh, yes, and also working with the high school kids. The high school has a gigantic fitness center, but it's mostly dominated by the teams that participate at Amity High School. So we're going to open it up to programs of younger kids to come in and use our programs like this and have a student, more student-based to get all ages in there.
If you're looking for suggestions, I think the strategic plan that the Board of Selectmen put together kind of had envisioned somewhere along the line if Recreation and Human Services, maybe Library, could meet jointly, because you're talking about seniors, you're talking about youth, those are also covered by Human Services, so maybe joint meetings might generate some new ideas for you? I don't know.
No, that's good. The more the merrier. You know, I always
There's a
take
suggestion.
Yeah, well, that's a good suggestion because I take into account like when the Church of the Assumption over here had a parking problem. How do you get people onto the sidewalk? It was unbelievable. So they loaded it up to the people. And one guy walked in and said, "Why don't you just take the sidewalks, take the lip all the way out along the edge like this, and anybody can park anywhere and walk directly to a sidewalk instead of having to walk all the way down to an entrance, you know, through the parking lot." That suggestion was unbelievable. So, yeah, if we got together and sit down, we can come up with, you know, programs. That's a good suggestion.
Okay? Thank you. Oh, wait a minute.
John, what do you do for advertising these programs so people know about them?
Online services of Facebook, Facebook like that, putting it into the program, putting it into the town website, putting it on our website, the things that we're presenting and things like that, and get it out there to the town of Woodbridge and sending it out to all the residents that we have.
The newsletter that comes out, you know, to the town monthly, we do the Woodbridge Town News.
Yep. We do that.
And news
At no cost. At no cost. We're trying to, you know, keep it down the best we can.
Okay? Okay. Thank you very much. Next up is the building department. Just to refresh our memories, could you please,
Bob Dillon, building official, town of Woodbridge.
thank you.
Part-time, I have one full-time employee. Asking for no increase.
Yeah, I see
We're
that.
going, giving back $1,800 for vehicle allowance.
Okay?
So, and that's it.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about the revenues, because you're a big revenue generator.
Yeah, right now we're about 312, we're figuring. That's, you know, putting aside, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, about 300 and plus thousand currently coming in, and so, you know, more than enough to cover the budget, but that doesn't include, you know, Toll Brothers is coming in next week. We had a meeting today, they pushed it to next week. They have 70 houses. You know, if you took $3,000 in permit fees for each house, that's projected 210, but that's something I'd rather not speak about tonight, but that's certainly over there somewhere. We'll cover our budget by, you know, by double.
Okay, any questions? That was a quick night. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Public Works. Warren Connors. You don't know him through the mask.
Good evening, everybody. On the Public Works budget, there's only 3 lines that have any major changes to them, so I'll go over them unless there's any questions about going line by line.
No, just go through the ones that changed.
Okay, line 53610, contracted services. That covers all of our outside contract work. Tree work, catch basin cleaning, line painting are the major ones associated with that. And the sheer volume of tree work is basically consuming that line item. And so in the cost of catch basin cleaning, the prices per basin, there's a wide range, but I base it on what we've had as a low bid in the past. And hopefully the contractor that we've been using will hold his price. Line painting, we haven't done that in a couple of years now, and it is a safety concern. But the cost of paint has increased, incredible. So those are the major ones that are consuming that line, but there may be a need for some other contracted service during the course of the year. We don't budget for the unknown, but we do know that because of the amount of trees, it's having a significant impact on what we do with that line. Moving on, 55-130, that's a line that kind of covers generic stuff for any piece of equipment or trucks, where the incidental stuff like hydraulic hoses, nuts and bolts, and different items to use lubricants, for spray lubricants to break the rust free on certain things. But we've been going over on that line item consistently, and so it's basically the cost of everything has been going up. So there's been an increased request in that line item. And then vehicle parts, and line 55-150, that line item, historically, we don't make increases in that, but it's very hard to buy any part for any vehicle without having some kind of a significant increase. The inflation, both from the beginning of the pandemic, but just parts in general, so they're outrageous, the cost of things. So that's why there's an increased request in that line. And those are the highlights of the Public Works budget.
How's your stock of salt and sand?
This year has been a mild winter, and
I just jinxed it, trust me.
Thank goodness, thank goodness.
It's gonna go straight downhill from here. Every time I open my
Very
mouth.
unusual winter. That's not the norm.
No. Keep our fingers crossed, though.
Right.
Okay, any questions for Warren on Public Works? Are you guys bored? They bored? They're looking for something to do?
Oh, not at all.
No, they like this, huh?
We've always got something to do.
I gotcha. All right, next is Waste Management.
Yep. Get my pages turned. Similar is true with Waste Management. There's few line items that are having changes, but the ones that do, line 51-800, it's uniform allowance, basically our PPE, the personal protection equipment, and anything that the guys have to work with, the cost of those items is going up, so there's a minor increase in that line request. It's all cost related. But the significant things that are impacting waste management are three lines. The 53-201, it's the waste disposal tip fees. That encompasses more than just the tip fees. It's the hauling and the tip fee. We estimate this time of year, but prices are not set until a later time of year. And it makes it very difficult to project. In the past, we've been a little soft on our requests because we've had increases after the budgets were set, and then the increases in those lines. So I'm trying to anticipate what, based on historical trends of tonnages and the contracts that are with the haulers themselves, but the tip fees are the big thing so there's been an increase requested there to correlate to the guesstimated tip fees that will be, because we've had an increase and we anticipate another one, and it'll be after this budget is established. Hopefully we'll be more in line with our request to what the actuarials would be. The next one is bulky waste, line 53-204. It's the same thing with that line. We have tip fees and tonnages. We've tracked them, and we don't have big variables. I mean, the residents are very consistent with the waste disposal. We get reports, and the tonnage are staying consistent, but the cost of operations are going up. And some of it is with the contract fees for the trucks. but most of it is just tip fees again. And then another big one is the line 53,300 recycling. As we've all discussed in the past, that the single stream recycling is good. Tonnages have been pretty consistent with that, but we're getting increases across the board, and the big thing there is the glass that's in the single stream. It's more weight, and hopefully we haven't had the container at the transfer long enough to notice if there's going to be a big impact with the separation of the bottles and cans and stuff like that to see where this is going to go, but we still have to dispose of them. So when we look at the costs, everything is built into that cost increase. And again, the tip fees going up there. And that's pretty much the basis for any cost increase within waste management.
Any questions on waste management?
Can I ask one quick question? We raised the rates for, I believe we started charging for bulky waste pickup?
You mean the private collections that we do?
Yeah, we did.
We've
Started charging, and did that offset some of this?
well, it covers our operational costs for what we collect.
Uh-huh.
We do separate on tonnage tickets. We know what we're collecting for that. Before it was just collect and dump.
Right.
So it added to the overall picture. The outgoing cost, there will be a revenue stream, and again, we only had it implemented last year, but we had a drop off in people because we charge a $50 fee
Right.
for the collection. And it's still active, we do it 5 months out of the year, but we haven't got enough information to get, I don't think it's going to have a significant impact because the drop off in the request for collection versus the outgoing tonnage,
Got it.
it's more what's being brought in
Okay,
on an individual basis.
thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a quick question about the scale at the transfer station. Do you anticipate, now that that's been operationalized, do you anticipate that the rate that we're charging haulers might have to be adjusted, or what's your thinking on
Well,
that?
based on trends, and again, we've been light on our requests based on the timing of the budget. We get the increases on the tip fees and our disposal costs, and we also had changes in vendor, our outgoing hauling costs. So putting those in, we'll need, through this year to get a better handle on things. The costs, we might have to go up on the fees based on the end results, tracking it over the year. I've got a sheet that was prepared by Kelly for me that shows all of the disposal fees going back in past years, and tonnages are staying pretty much consistent. So it's weighted based on tip fee and hauling costs. We did make one change of operation with our brush. We now collect it from whatever goes in the container. We haul it to a disposal site, and it's all one fee. We're not handling brush twice where it would be disposed of at the transfer station, brought to our facility, and then we have to pay to grind it. We don't keep that material stockpiled on our footprint of landscape. We dispose of it, and the costs so far have been kind of balanced out. What we would pay for brush grinding and then have to deal with the material a third time, we now don't have that. We dispose directly. We generate enough between storm damage and what we trim from the side of the road. We're still going to have a grind at some point. But as far as what's generated from the transfer station, we dispose of that directly without having to manage it 2 or 3 times.
Thank you.
Is there a market for that brush?
No. In fact, it's almost paying to process it. That's where, we either have to grind it on site and then figure a way to dispose of it, or do what we're doing, at least what's generated from the transfer station, we bring it to a hauler who grinds it, and they use it. What they do with it, I really don't care because that's on their end, but it's off our site. But we're not whether we grind it here, we take up our footprint on our landscape and we diminish our storage capacity, or we get it off-site and let them process it at their facility. What I'd like to do in future grinds is actually have it processed and hauled away as they're grinding it up. Kind of like what we do with the mass grind from storms.
The question is, what do the folks who grind it up do with it?
They might take some of it because they get mixed material. They might treat it, dye it, and then it goes out to the consumers, or they use it for composting.
And we're paying them to take that away then, and then they're selling it.
Well, we dispose it at their facility.
But they're charging us for that, right, or no?
Yeah, by the ton. Nobody's gonna take it, there's so much of it generated, they're not gonna take it for nothing.
Anything else?
Just an aside here, the San Diego Zoo had this tremendous amount of animal waste, and they were hauling it to the town dump, and they had to pay to haul it. And then somebody got the brilliant idea of composting it and selling it for fertilizer. So they turned this liability into a profit for the zoo.
Well, that's kind of like the idea with the food waste and thing. If that can be separated out, they bring it to a digester, it's processed. It's different than a septic system, but it works on the same principle where it's processed. The weight is segregated from the normal trash disposal, and they're recycling the material. Wood chips, the market is flooded. Even the people that are doing the work here in town for the utility companies, they're at limitations of what they can do with it because they have to haul it off-site and find a place that can take it. That's true with both the logs. Sometimes logs can be brought to a place and milled down, cut into firewood, or they process them into everything now is with pellet stoves. They process it into pellets. That may be what they're doing with it on the outgoing side. I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck this winter.
It's been a good one so far.
No. I just jinxed it tonight, though. I guarantee you. If we get 4 blizzards, just think of me.
Get out.
Matt, I did hear it may get 4 inches tomorrow, so thank you.
Yeah, but it's gonna get washed away. Okay, next up is the former, Tony Genovese now takes over. Former fire station, 1191.
These are the utilities for the former fire station, which is currently, very minimal. I did project a possible increase for use of the building starting January 1st with the Community and Cultural Center discussions underway. And so that's where the increase is. Some sort of use of the building in the last half to last quarter of next fiscal year. That's what that's for.
So Tony, that's roughly half of what you would expect?
Correct. Right.
So this might be where we should be thinking about the systems that we put in for heating and cooling especially, because if we invest more now to get a heating and cooling system that's gonna hold the cost down over time, right, because this is new, come
Right.
back online.
Is that for the systems we put in about a year or so ago?
Yeah.
All the new units and everything for the natural gas for the heating and cooling?
Right. So we'll and it gets a little bit limited use now, but there'll obviously be more use with the facilities, yeah.
Anything on that? Thomas Darling House?
Thomas Darling House is a pass-through. We bill the Historical Society for all of the costs in this budget, and they reimburse us for them. So it's, if you look in the revenue section, you'll see an identical revenue for that amount.
Okay, so it's a wash.
It's a wash, yeah.
Okay. Big thing there is all the capital stuff we heard about. So
Right. This is just the operational cost of the house.
Alrighty. Information systems, which is 1145.
So we had a similar instance here. We've seen a lot of cost increases for cybersecurity related items, whether it's programs that we're using to safeguard the town from a potential cyber leak or cyber attack. And we have a few of those that we do. A lot of them are required by our insurance company. We do have cyber security insurance, and they're very diligent about making sure that we have certain latest protections in place. Those are not cheap. And similarly, the costs for the cloud packages that we use are facing similar problems, whether it's our financial software, which is in the cloud, our website software, which is in the cloud. A lot of them are tax package. And so those vendors are also facing similar cybersecurity costs, which they pass through to us. So there's really not a lot of additional stuff here. It's just the costs of the services provided are increasing dramatically.
Does this include all the departments?
Yes.
Like PD, fire, library,
This
and all that?
this includes all town departments, includes the library, includes the town hall, includes the building department software, includes the assessor software, the tax collector, the financials, the human services, includes antivirus and multi-factor authentication and email for the town network. Does not include fire or police. They have IT in their own budget. Yeah.
They have their own.
We're separated specifically for that reason.
Is it the same system that we're recommending the PD get and
Yes.
fire get, so
We're all using the
comparable?
same vendor. We're all using the same,
Okay.
the same systems, the same emails and system and stuff. It's just everything is moved to online and in the cloud. A lot of our services are now. I mean, you probably find that yourself in your own
Oh, yeah.
operations.
Oh, yeah.
That's just sort of the way of.
You got every year it's a fortune.
You've seen.
And it's the same stuff, and they keep raising the prices.
Right.
And you can't say I don't want it, because you gotta have it. So,
Right.
Yeah. Everybody who's got computers that are sensitive, you have to have this stuff. It's terrible.
The other thing is internet access is in here, and we're currently working to restructure this and possibly save some money here. So I'm hoping to have that done by the time the budget is approved. But we're gonna sort of increase our reliance on the state-provided fiber networks and reduce our cable costs. So
Okay.
they've recently improved that, so we're going to take advantage of that.
Any questions for Tony on that? All right, and finally, the Finance Department, which
I think this budget's the same as last year.
flat, right?
Yeah.
Any questions on that? Okay, so Thursday, let's take a look here. Not too bad. Board of Ed, of course, is going to be lengthy, I'm sure.
Scott Bassett will be here
Scott
from
Bassett will be here.
RSM
Yep.
to present the audit.
Yep. Okay. Have a good evening, and we'll see you on Thursday. Same bat time, same bat place.
Years ago.